I've got a front view and a top view of the object. You can see that the top part of it is a circle, which I've broken up into 12 equal spaces, and I'm labeling it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. You'll see those numbers appearing over here, number 1, number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, linking up with these numbers coming from the circle. If I drew an XY axis in over here, I would end up with a point view of line 1A. Down at the bottom, I've got this point A over here. 1A is going to be a true length. Why? Because I've got a point view over here. This line over here is going to be my true length. I'm going to take that length of 1A and I'm going to measure it off with my pair of compasses. I'm going to make a little line coming out there. You can see I've made a little point called A, and I'm going to take that measurement, going to arc it off over there, and I'm going to call that point over there 1. So A to 1, true length, true length. Right, once I've done that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I need a true length going from 1 to 2. I'm taking this length over here from 1 to 2. Why? Because I've got 1 to 2 over here is parallel to the XY axis. Therefore, 1 to 2 over here is a true length. I'm going to arc that off over here. And somewhere along that arc, I'm going to find a 2. All right. I'm going to take this length over here from A to B. I know that this is a true length from A to B. Why? Because AB over here is parallel to the XY axis as well. I can take from A an arc off to find somewhere along that arc will be my B. All right, I now need to find out the distance from 1 to B. 1 is at the top, B is at the bottom. I've got this length over here, 1 going down to B, that is parallel to the XY axis. Therefore, this length over here, 1 to B, is also going to be a true length. Parallel, therefore, that's a true length. I can find that in another way. I can take this length over here from A to B, from 1 to B over here, and I transport that across to a little graph that I've drawn over here. You can see the true height of the object, and I can mark this off over here on this, where I've got my label over here that says 1B. I can take this distance from the top of my graph over here down to 1B where I labeled it, and I can come over here from 1 going to B over there, and I can mark that off as being B. A to B I got from there. 1 to B I got from my graph over here, which I took this measurement to the graph, mark it off. From there to there is going to give me the true length from 1 to B. Take that to 1, mark it off on the arc that I got from A, and I will have my point B. Right, what I need to do now is I need to find the true length from B to 2. Somewhere along this little arc over here, I'm going to have my 2. B to 2. I'm going to take this length over here. It is not a true length. Why? Because it is not parallel to the XY axis, nor will 2B over there be parallel to the XY axis. I need to take this distance from my top view to my graph, mark it off. You can see that I've labeled it B2 over there. I take my true length distance from my graph, I place it at B, and I mark it off over here, getting point 2. And I'll go to the top view over here, and I get from 2 to 3. Make a little arc. I need to find the true length distance between B and 3. Take it off the top view, go to the graph, mark it off, label it B3 on the graph, take it from B3 on the graph to the top there, go to B over here, mark it off, getting my 3. Go to 4 to B. Mark it off. Mark off 4B over there. Extend it to the top of the graph. Take it to B. Mark it off over here. I need a distance from 3 to 4 over here. And mark that off. I now have 1, 2, 3, 4. I now need to go and find where C is going to be. Okay? That point C over there, I've got a true length distance from B to C. Why do I have a true length distance from B to C? Because I've got a point view over here. If I've got a point view, this distance over here is going to be my true length. B to C, mark that off. I now need to find out what the true length distance is from 4 to C. I take this distance from the top view, go to my graph, mark it off as 4C. Take that true length distance off the graph, and I go to 4, go to 4 and mark off where C is. Once I've got that, I'm going to go and I'm going to measure this distance from 4 to 5. Take that, go to 4, make a little arc. I now need a true length distance from 5 to C. Take it off the top view, take it to the graph, mark it off, label it as 5C over here, measure it off, go to C, and arc off on that little arc that I made from 4. That'll give me 0.5. Go to 6C, mark it off on the graph, get the true length distance from C to 6. Mark that off. Somewhere along that arc, I'm going to find 6. I need to take a distance from 5 to 6. Go to 5, mark off, and I end up with 0.6. Going to go from 6 to 7. And I'm going to draw a little arc. I need to find the true length distance between C and 7. Go to the true length graph, mark it off, C7, go to the top of the graph over here, and arc off there. What have I got there? I've got 0.7. Now you'll note that I didn't continue going around 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The reason being is that I can see that this thing is exactly symmetrical on either side. If I've got that, then I can use this idea of mirroring whatever I have on this side onto the other side. If you don't have that situation, you are going to have to mark off all of these points over here, right the way through to 12. You're going to have to draw lines from D, and you're going to have to continue this process that we've been doing over here, getting the true length lines in order to get the curve and where these points D and E would be. All right. I do have a symmetry thing going. I'm just going to draw in this side so that you can see. A to B, true length from A to B is that. B to C. I can draw in this arc over here. I'm not going to do it right away, just because these points over here, I want to show you how I can take those across. I'm going to take this distance from C to D. This is a true length distance because that is a parallel line. Take that distance. Somewhere along that arc, I'm going to have point D. I need to take a true length distance from D to 7. I've got 0.7. Go along to your graph, mark it off, and I end up with D7. I'm going to measure off that distance over there. Going to go to 7 and mark it off, so I now have point D. I draw a line going across here. That line over there is going to be a very important line for me to complete this. Make sure that you've drawn that very accurately. I'm now going to bisect that line. Take my pair of compasses, extend them to beyond the center of the line, and I draw a little arc going around here. Go to that end of the line, draw this little arc going around here. By doing that, I have made a perpendicular bisector going through the center of this thing. Right. If I've got that, what I can do now is I can take my set square and I'm going to slide it back parallel to that line. I can now take this set square over here, holding this down very, very carefully. You'll see that that is at 90 degrees. I can now slide it across and I can get points coming off. Well, 7 is on that axis. Go across and draw a line coming from 6. Draw a line coming from 5. Draw a line coming from 4. Draw a line coming from B over here. Draw a line coming from 3. Draw a line coming from 2. Draw a line coming from 1. And draw a line coming from A. Once I've got that in place, I can now take my pair of dividers and I can measure off this distance from A to that axis over there, swing it around, and I'll find my point E over here. A. What am I doing? I'll now come over here and take this distance from 1 to the axis, I swing that round, and I'll have another point 1. Why am I getting another point 1? Well, this thing needs to join up. That's the same line that's going to join up. And I'll go to point 2, swing that around. Label it point 2. Go to point 3. Swing it around. It's point 3. Go to point 4. Swing it around. Label it point 4. You'll see that I'm using the same numbers. They're actually not the same numbers. I should actually be labeling them with 8, 9, 7, 8, 9. Six, swing it round. Okay, I'm going to change these numbers. 7 going to 8, 8 going to 9, 9 going to 10, 10 going to 11, 11 going to 12, and 12 going to 1. I can now draw this line going from D going to E. I haven't marked off E yet, sorry. Where's B? On the other side of B, I'm going to have point E. There's my point E over there. I'm going to draw in D to E. And E going across to A. You can see that symmetry on either side. 1 to A. And now all I need to do is to do a little curve. You can use French curves in order to do this, or you can freehand it if you're good enough with your freehand. You'll see that I'm just using little marks going around. Once that's in place, I can now draw in this curve nice and dark.